Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thanks for this opportunity to address you tonight. I think the last time we actually discussed in any open forum crime in the city of Norwalk was at the NCCC luncheon earlier this year. And I had mentioned at that point in time how thrilled we all were with the city's enjoyment of a 13% reduction in 2014 from the preceding year. And in fact, it was a 10-year low in major crime in this city. That had followed a significant reduction in crime the year before. And we actually entered July feeling really, really good about where we were. We were still 6% down from last year when we thought we couldn't go any lower in serious crime in this city. So we had continued a trend of reduction where cities around us had actually increased many in double digits. Most of that reduction stemmed from our success at combating property crimes, burglaries and thefts, auto thefts included, where they're rising astronomically in other communities, have continued to decline in this city. Our violent crime stayed fairly steady. Our gang crime, gang assaults actually stayed on par with last year. We hadn't seen an increase. Our aggravated assaults in general were only slightly up, and those tend to consist of family fights, domestic matters, friends drinking together, and acquaintances having disagreements and getting out of hand. So we were fairly confident coming into July that we were in a really, really good place. Then the weekend of July 11th came, and a lot of things changed for a lot of us during that weekend. We had a series of events over the course of 4 days, very, very disturbing, tragic crimes that occurred in this city, all compacted into a very, very short period of time. That, coupled with some completely misreporting from some media outlets, made it look even worse, as if it could be any worse than it already was. And I'd like to go over with you those details as well as let you know what we're doing. I know Mr. Hernandez had spoken of the cohesive relationship that we have, and I have to tell you that everything we're doing at this point in time, and I will get into that, we owe a lot of thanks to the city for its immediate stepping up and giving us what we needed to apply resources in the problem areas that we have. That's always been the case here, and it continues to be the case, and I want to thank you for that. That said, if I can chronicle a few events that occurred the weekend before last, just to let you know what we have and kind of where we're going with it. First off, there was a very, very tragic on Friday the 10th. It was a self-inflicted accidental shooting. I can't say much more to it than that, just out of concern for privacy of the concerned family. But that event initially came out as a gunshot victim call. And if any of you monitor radio frequencies, police frequencies, as the news do, what you pick up on is a report of a gunshot victim. And that later became part of a media publication added on as a gun violence in Norwalk, when in fact it was tragic, it was regrettable, it was unfortunate, it was horrific, but it was not a homicide or an assault put upon another individual in this town. It's something that took place inside a residence, but was reported by several media outlets who had gotten on at the front end of it with partial information as gun violence in Norwalk. The very next day, on July 11th in Gertie's Park, we had our first gang-related homicide of the year. We're 6.5 months into this year. We've had one homicide up to this point in this community, and on July 11th we had our first gang-related. We call it gang-related not because all the parties are gang members. In fact, our victims in this matter, we had an individual killed, we had another individual wounded, who were doing nothing in that park other than minding their own business. And they were shot in what we believe to be a gang-motivated shooting. Now, whether they were just mistaken because of where they were by somebody else, we can't say. It's an active investigation. But our victims weren't gang members at that time, during that evening when that shooting took place. That was July 11th. That was our first gang-related homicide in this community and our second homicide of the year. Last year we were up to actually 5 homicides at this point in time. July 13th, we had a crazy night in Hermosillo Park. We had 4 individuals, again, who were called out for affiliation, and all 4 were shot and wounded. That point in time, and obviously, it's occurred to us that we've got some gang activity going on in our parks at this point in time. Whether they're related, I can't say at this point in time, but we do know that we believe there to be a gang nexus, and that is an assault on our parks. That's an assault on our public place where our community residents go to recreate, and it is a very, very, very big deal to us. July 14th, Norwalk made the news again with a tragedy on Gettysburg, and it was a double homicide, and it's unrelated to anything going on in the streets that we know of. However, it occurred, and it occurred obviously in close proximity to the other events. And it's a horrific tragedy. It's being investigated, but it's being investigated as its own standalone incident at this time. On top of all that, another local media outlet reported a Downey event as occurring in Norwalk. So when some of the more major outlets got a hold of all of this information at one time, early the week of the 15th actually is after the Gettysburg incident, when a lot of media attention really came out, they had reported 5 homicides in Norwalk and 10 people shot, and the truth of the matter is, and the numbers are horrible on their own, we'd have 5 people wounded and 3 killed in 3 separate incidents. It was actually 3 incidents over the few days. Again, one of them definitely unrelated, and 2, other than a gang nexus, I can't establish a relationship at this point in time. The double homicide is being investigated by our department's homicide investigators. They have the resources they need, and they're investigating it as its own standalone incident. We met with the city, well, actually, we meet with the city on a daily basis, and we talk with them on a daily basis when these incidents arise. But we decided to sit down with Mr. Hernandez and Mr. Yord from Public Safety and see what we could do to make sure that our parks were as safe as we can make them, as well as to make sure that the public felt safe in going to the parks. We've got a couple things going on right now. As a general rule, you know, the Norwalk, like any other contract city, pays a lot of money every year for a number of deputies to provide contract law enforcement services in the community. And as a general rule, that all works out well, and we have exactly what we need. When we get these flurries of activities, and they'll come up periodically, you know, we need to apply additional resources into the problem. We need to do that so that we can, number one, increase our investigative efforts, get more investigators in to figure out what the beef's about between any local gangs, what incident might have spurred it, find out who our suspects are in this matter, and arrest them. Secondly, we need to make sure that our parks are safe, and in doing so, we need to be at the parks in order to see that. We've got additional personnel that are going around specifically policing the parks, and they're talking to the people they need to talk to within the parks, whether they're the local residents out to recreate, whether they're you know, members of street gangs or whatever, to let them know that we can't have this going on in the park. And I mean, it's a tactic we typically take, the enforcement and the investigative two-pronged approach whenever these flare-ups happen. And historically, we're always successful. I'm confident we will be at this point in time again. People get the message that this kind of stuff is unacceptable, and unfortunately, periodically, it will flare up, and we have to attack it when it does. But I do want to tell you that. What we've got right now, and we have had from the onset, as any other time we enter a crisis, is unwavering, absolutely relentless, and just unhesitating support from the city, elected officials as well as our appointed officials. When we tell them we need extra funding to put resources into a problem, we get it. We've got that right now. We're working together with public safety, with city staff, and as well as with Parks and Rec, to address this problem as a team. And so I want to thank you for that. Other than that, anytime you want to interrupt me with questions, I want you to please feel free to do so. We had an event yesterday, a couple actually, that I know have, one of them in particular made the news, and it was a riverbed event. And of course, because the riverbed flows through cities everywhere, that this event happened to take place within Norwalk city boundaries. I don't want, and while it's unfortunate, and I don't want anybody getting shot, none of us do, I don't want, to the extent that anything we have to say here, I don't want the citizens to feel like you know, this doesn't mean you can't walk on your streets. Something, you know, our riverbeds are full of a lot of folks who use them, who are, you know, transit people, people with drug addiction problems, people with mental health problems, people that do prey upon the communities. And we have a lot of good fortune and success in Norwalk with addressing those issues and addressing the property crimes in particular that happen. But there are disagreements and flare-ups that occur down in those riverbed communities and their transit communities. They come and go. And when they happen, if they're in a particular jurisdiction, it gets reported in that jurisdiction. And we had that last night. But to the extent that it matters, I want the community to know that they shouldn't feel impacted as they go to the store and walk about their streets from day to day, that riverbed incident having an impact on them. We had another event that's emanated out of Excelsior High where one of our community members, being a good citizen and trying to do the right thing, saw what might have been a theft of some sort in progress from some items from that property and followed the suspects. And as a result, or during the process, I should say, he got his car shot at. And I want to thank anybody, we appreciate to no end anybody's willingness or desire to get involved to help make this community better. But the only word of caution I would put out to someone is get a license plate, be a great witness, do not engage, don't follow. You never know where you're going to end up. Don't contact, don't confront, because we can't predict what a lot of the people in our communities anywhere are going to do or how they're going to react to our insertion into a situation. Fortunately, this Good Samaritan was not injured as a result of it, and we have an active investigation into that matter as well. That's not related to the two park matters. I'm relatively satisfied to say that at this point in time. It was its own incident. We're really focusing on our parks, that they belong to everybody that lives here, and we want them out there feeling safe. And as I said, I want to thank the city again for giving us what we need to bring that to bear. And I'm confident, as we always have in the past, we're going to find out who committed those shootings, and we'll bring them to justice. And I'll entertain any questions you have at this point in time.
Okay. Sherry, do you have any questions? Comments?
I just want to thank the captain for coming this evening and explaining in more detail than I thought he would to our community as to what's been happening. And again, I just want to thank you and all of your staff at the station for all that you do for our city.
Thank you. Marcel?
Yeah, I just want to say, Captain, I know the entire council really appreciate the work that you do and all the deputies are doing. You know, those guys go out there and put themselves in harm's way every day to make sure our community's safe. So we really appreciate the extra work you guys are putting in to keep our community safe. And, just keep doing the good work, because I know that this is, we've seen it happen here before even, we get these spikes every now and again. But I know as soon as they do, you ask us for resources, we provide them, and we do what we can to put it down.
We always do.
Yeah, and I want to thank you also for the reminder. When you see something happening in the city, we always ask for help. Just as you said, we're not asking you to get involved. We're not asking you to apprehend anyone. Just get a license plate, get a description, call it to the sheriff's department. We don't want to see anyone get hurt to trying to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Luigi?
Yes, sir. I'd just like to thank you personally. But I'd also like to remind the residents of this community, this is your community. You need to be out there and be our eyes and ears. You see something suspicious, call it in. You don't have to, like the captain said, like the councilman said, you don't have to follow them or get engaged with them. Just get a license plate number, give them whatever information you can give them, because it makes it easier for them to do their job and for us to do our job in protecting this community. And if you see something, please call. It's your city, our city together. I've lived here all my life. I'm not about to see it go down to criminals and gangs. So please, be engaged. And thank you very much, Captain, to all your deputies, all your civilian staff over there, and throughout LA County. And God bless you guys.
Thank you. If I may add as well, we went to the media with a lot of the corrections and updates, and as I told you folks, and I just want the public to know, I don't, we're in a new news cycle, so all the corrective news of what actually, how things had unfolded, I don't think we've seen a lot of updated reporting coming from a lot of the major outlets that initially reported a lot of the misinformation. So just so you know, we've made a lot of efforts just to clarify what exactly has taken place in this great city. So, and I think the media has moved on in a lot of ways. So,
Mike?
I also want to thank you, Captain, and the officers, and just everybody out there working together to keep Norwalk safe. It's something that we talk about all the time as a council. It's our number one priority is public safety. So it's so important that we're trying to do everything we can to keep this town safe. So thank you so much.
thank you.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
If I were to kind of pull out some of the big ideas that your presentation contained, one of the things that I would say is that at this point there's some unrelatedness in the events.
Yes.
Is the Gertis incident and the Hermosillo incident, are they related at this point?
Related as far as the same suspects involved, we
Right.
can't say. It's too early to tell.
Okay.
And I couldn't posit one way or the other.
Okay. And how about, I know that we're putting out additional presence.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that the community understands that that presence is happening in the key parts of the
Yes.
of the evening
Yes.
and in and around the parks.
Yeah, we you know what, when we find the problem area and we apply the resource to the problem.
Okay.
You know, when we actually, you know, I think that it would benefit our entire efforts the most.
And lastly, I just say, you know, it's kind of wicked the way the press works. You know, they run with some information, and it's not entirely correct. I know that you've made some overtures to those very
Yes.
same news outlets to get it correct,
Yes.
but that was to no avail because I guess the next cycle has
The world turns. Yes.
kicked in. But for us and our community members, as you start bringing these people to justice, can you come back and say, hey, this was the knucklehead that committed the crime on July 11th?
Absolutely.
Because I want to make sure that we make sure that our community members know that you find your people that are committing
Absolutely.
crime.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. And then lastly, of course, we're praying for you and we want God to bless you and all your men because it's a hard job. We understand it's a hard job and we appreciate that. You're our front line.
Thank you very much.
If there are no other questions, how about a round of applause for our captain?